To OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
IPMNation.com.
Hey, welcome everybody. Matt Connarton Unleashed. We're live from the Uptown Auto Repair Studio in Manchester, New Hampshire on IPM Nation 2, as we are 5 nights a week at 11 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, Tuesdays and Thursday nights, we're also on OTR FM, the premium channel on the OMTimes radio network. So, welcome. Earlier tonight, of course, we had Matt Connarton Unleashed, the television edition, which is now Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation. We had a couple of really interesting shows, actually. We had Ward 13 with John Hopwood, which is now at 6 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. And you can see that on IPM Nation. And that was quite a show. We had Arnie Arneson was on with us, who is someone who I've been kind of a fan of for a long time in terms of her. She does a radio show called The Attitude with Arnie Arneson, which we're actually, it's a nationally syndicated show, and we're going to start carrying that on IPM Nation pretty quick. So I'm excited about that. You know, I don't, Arnie is someone who, you know, I certainly don't agree with her on everything. She's very sort of hard left. She's a Bernie supporter and whatnot, but I think she's brilliant, and I would not, if I were running for office, and she was my opponent, I would not look forward to debating her. She is very, very smart and very articulate, and she showed it tonight on John's show, and it was a great conversation. So that will be up. We'll have that up on YouTube. I should have the file sometime on Wednesday. We'll have that up as well as the television edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed. That was just John Hopwood and I. Arnie couldn't stick around for that, unfortunately. She had another engagement that she had to get to, but I'll try to get her on the show. Let's see. So those will be up tomorrow. And, of course, we do broadcasts from the Uptown Auto Repair Studio in Manchester, New Hampshire. We are powered by Ambit Energy. If you want to learn to save on your energy bills, go to ipmnation.ambitrabbit.com. You could be on your way to free energy. And we are sponsored by the Mortgage Specialists. If you need help with the purchase of a home, like I always say, it's probably the biggest purchase you'll ever make. Go to themortgagespecialists.com and you can set up an appointment, and they will guide you through that process. And let's see. I've got, well, obviously it's a big night because it's the California primary, which last I looked, actually, let me refresh this page, but I don't think we have the final results in, but Hillary is expected to win. One of the things that we talked about on Ward 13 with John Hopwood, Arnie is a Bernie supporter and is really upset with the Associated Press. I think it was last night on the show I mentioned that the AP has called the nomination, the Democratic nomination for Hillary. They have declared her the winner. And Bernie Sanders is not conceded, and a lot of Bernie supporters are angry. And Arnie kind of broke it down and said that the problem with what they've done with the Associated Press calling the nomination for Hillary is that the math isn't there. You know, she doesn't. The only way that she has the number of delegates, the minimum number of delegates needed to clinch the nomination, is if you don't count the superdelegates. And so her speculation is that, you know, the Associated Press has been calling up these superdelegates on a regular basis and just kind of polling them and asking them, okay, have you decided? Have you decided? And is assuming that most of them are going for Hillary, which most of them probably are. But the problem is, so for example, you've got today the California primary. You have all these people in California who are probably pretty excited that their vote in the primary was actually going to count for something. Because usually by this point in the process, you know, the nominee is already, you know, they've already got it pretty well wrapped up. They've already hit the delegate count that they need. Hillary hasn't been able to do that because Bernie's actually won quite a few primaries. And, even though they've rigged the system, so he's not going to get those superdelegates, he's still getting a lot of the regular delegates. So, and quite frankly, you can't, even if you're a Hillary supporter, it's hard to have any sympathy for her in this process because he's just doing to her the same thing that she did to Obama in 2008. In fact, I think it was right about now that in the process in 2008, I think it was right about this point when Hillary conceded and dropped out because I seem to recall, if I remember correctly, it was right after the Puerto Rican primary because Hillary won Puerto Rico, and then which, yes, is part of the United States. As I mentioned last night on the show, I saw a recent poll that showed that less than half of Americans actually realize that Puerto Rico is a part of the United States of America, which is discouraging. Like I said, thank you, public education. Yes, Puerto Rico is part of the U.S., and yes, they have a primary. But if I remember correctly, it was after winning the Puerto Rican primary in 2008, Hillary ended up having to drop out because even though she won that primary, the math just wasn't there, and she was out. She conceded. Maybe she hung on until California. I'm not sure. But Arnie was saying that you've got these California voters who were excited that this time around their primary was really going to mean something. These Bernie supporters who were excited to vote for Bernie, and then they're told by the AP that, nope, your vote doesn't count because Hillary's already got the nomination. And, like Arnie said, the math isn't there. You got to be able to show, it's like in school, you got to show your math. How did you arrive at that conclusion? And the AP can't do it. They obviously there's been some secret contact with these superdelegates. So that's where we are. I did see Hillary won New Jersey today, and Bernie won North Dakota. And Hillary most likely will win the California primary, and that definitely will obviously put her over the top. But the AP seemed to call it early, and it's I can see why Bernie supporters are angry, and like I said, Bernie has not yet conceded. Let's see, we got a couple minutes before the first break. Something quick from my favorite website. rightwingwatch.org. Apparently, according to crazy Uncle Pat Robertson, marriage equality makes it harder to fight radical Islam and the other forces of secularism. So apparently, and I had no idea that radical Islam, so I suppose, the rise of ISIS and so forth, when we're looking at the various causes of that, ultimately, it always comes down to the same thing for these people in terms of who to blame. The gays. Here, we'll listen to this audio and let's hear crazy Uncle Pat explain how the gays are causing radical Islam. And I'm sure helping to usher in Satan or whatever they're trying to do.
What do you think is going to happen now that the Supreme Court has legalized same-sex marriage?
I found, Steve, that the homosexuals don't want equality. They don't want equal treatment. What they want is to destroy everybody who disagrees with them. So first of all, we've gotten the Supreme Court saying, okay, homosexuality is a constitutionally protected right. Now we've heard from Justice Kennedy that the personhood and the love between two men or two women is something that's protected by the Constitution. That gives equality to whatever they want. But that's not going to be the end of it. They're going to insist that any organization that disagrees with homosexuality is eliminated. There's going to be a vendetta against tax-exempt status, vendetta against any kind of government grants, for example, to students who want to study in schools. When you see what was done to Bob Jones University, that's just a warm-up to what's going to happen unless there's something dramatic that takes place. The Supreme Court, to think that we've got 5 men and women, 5 unelected people who are controlling the moral destiny of this nation, and they're stripping us of the defenses we have to have against radical Islam and the other forces of secularism trying to destroy us. And the Supreme Court is making it more and more difficult to assert these foundational values.
So just to be clear, because of the Supreme Court's ruling on marriage equality, it's now much harder to fight radical Islam because the gays are just ruining everything. I mean, he went through the list, you know, I don't even remember the list. It seems like there was some sort of litany of things that this leads to when you make homosexuality legally codified or whatever, which even the way he talks about it, by the way, is weird. It's like, no, the ruling was about gay marriage. It wasn't about homosexuality itself. I think that was already legal. I think it's already been legal to be gay. It's just a matter of allowing them to have the same rights as everyone else, which obviously is going to lead to the destruction of America, I guess. Anyway, when we come back, so we're up against a break. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. I'm going to further my theory with all of you that Trump either is, in fact, a plant or that he's just intentionally trying to tank the election because he doesn't want to be president. I've had yet another epiphany in this matter, and I will share with you when we come back.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Matt Connarton Unleashed. We're live. We have a phone line open for you if you would like to partake. 617-917-4IPM. That's IPM as an IPM Nation. Or for the alphanumerically challenged, 617-917-4476. You can call us. You can text us. You can do both if you want. It'll be a little redundant. Of course, we have the chat room at ipmnation.com/live2. You can also post on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. You can tweet me at Matt Connarton. Okay. I discussed last night and on this week's television edition of Unleashed that I have come to the conclusion that either that it is true. The conspiracy theories are true. It's kind of funny that I am now coming to this, and I'm not saying this to be funny. I'm actually am serious about this. As incredible as it sounds, this theory, a lot of people were wondering about this in the beginning. Is Trump a plant? And then, of course, over time, those theories faded away. But I actually was a little bit suspicious from the beginning. But I've gone from thinking, maybe there was, I don't know, a somewhat of a chance. I now actually am convinced that he made a secret deal with the Clintons, or it's also possible that he didn't make a deal with the Clintons, but he is trying to sabotage himself because maybe he's panicking because he never really wanted to be president, and this was just a grand publicity stunt, and he didn't expect to do as well as he is. Maybe he's really just a bored rich guy who had already accomplished everything he really wanted to do and thought, what the hell, I'll run for president, and didn't expect to get this far. Maybe he thought it would be exciting and now he's bored with the idea. I don't know. But, there's been mounting evidence, like I said on the show last night, when he does this kind of thing where, he's attacking a Mexican-American judge because, he can't possibly be fair to me because he's Mexican, and now he's attacking a Muslim judge for the same reason. And then the other day, he pointed out, he's talking about at a rally, I have great support among African Americans, and then he points to the one black guy in the crowd and says, look at my African American over there. And that, by the way, which obviously came off terrible, and it's funny too, because that could have easily sounded so much better if he had just added one word on the end of that sentence, like if he had said, "Look at my African American friend over there," or "Look at my African American supporter over there." But he goes, "Look at my African American over there." So either he is the least self-aware person ever to run for president and is just absolutely clueless, just has no concept of how what comes out of his mouth sounds, or he is intentionally trying to tank this campaign. Look, obviously he should have pivoted into general election mode by now, and yet he's still attacking fellow Republicans and alienating fellow Republicans and making them very upset. Clearly he's going to lose, and also too, clearly Gary Johnson is going to siphon off a lot of votes for Trump. So Hillary Clinton absolutely is going to be the next president. I don't know if even an FBI indictment over the emails could prevent that at this point. Donald Trump clearly is trying to lose. And here's the other part that I realized. I was thinking about this today. Donald Trump, if he really wanted to become president, if he really wanted to beat Hillary, he could. There's a very clear path for him to do so. And he could actually end up crushing her. I think she's going to crush him. But there's an opportunity for him to crush her. And it's so obvious. And it's so obvious how he could do it. And yet he's doing the exact opposite. And here's how. What if he were to behave? What if he were to present himself as the Donald Trump we used to know? Because think about it. Before Donald Trump decided to run for president and started, saying these incendiary things and insulting everybody around him and being kind of racist and all that, before that, Donald Trump was pretty well liked generally. He had his show, The Apprentice. The Apprentice was hugely successful, or hugely successful, as Trump might say, because people liked Trump. And even though there's something about him, I guess it's the way he talks or whatever. There's something about him that even though he's a billionaire, the everyman, so to speak, kind of likes him and relates to him on some level. And, very, very popular among everybody. People generally really liked Donald Trump. If Donald Trump, as the Republican nominee, were to be that version of Trump that everyone liked, he absolutely could win the presidency. Hell, it wasn't even too late to be that guy. Right after it became obvious that he was a presumptive nominee, if he then shifted and kind of went back to being the guy that he used to be, who everyone liked, and maybe said something like, I know I threw some sharp elbows in the primaries and whatnot, but I was trying to win the nomination. But now that I'm the Republican nominee, I'm going to represent everybody in America, minorities and everybody, That would have worked if Donald Trump were to be the Trump we used to know and like. He absolutely could be elected president. And he's up against a candidate with very high negatives, even among her own party. Poll after poll shows even Democrats, committed Democrats, find her to be untrustworthy. They don't like her. He had a tremendous opportunity. It's too late now, but he had a tremendous opportunity to be the Donald Trump of old. And instead he chose to he doubles down and triples down on the incendiary statements and the bizarre comments like, look at my African American over there, and the racism. He just keeps ratcheting it up, when the obvious course, if he really wants to win, is so obvious. But he does the opposite. Why? There can only be one reason. He is trying to lose. Clearly, he is trying to lose. I loved him when he was, when The Apprentice was at its peak, big ratings grabber. Everybody would say, his catchphrase, "You're fired," and everybody loved Donald Trump. Why not be that Donald Trump who everybody loved and everyone kind of looked up to, and, why not be that guy? That guy could be president. But he's twisted himself into, quite frankly, a caricature of a conservative Republican. Not even, just an absurd caricature of what he probably thinks a conservative Republican is, because, again, there's a hell of a lot of evidence to suggest that he's not a conservative, and he probably doesn't mean most of what he says anyway. Like I said last night on the show, there's video of as recently as, I think, 2012, 2013, of him saying complimentary things about Hillary Clinton, of him saying he self-identifies as a Democrat, of him saying he's pro-choice. All this stuff. And now it's like he's playing this character. And I've often said too, I've said this from the beginning, to be honest. I watch him and I feel like he's playing a character, like he's not being genuine, like he's playing this weird version of himself, and he's just kind of having fun with it and seeing how far he can push it. That was a pretty telling statement he made when he made that one comment at a rally. He said, I could shoot somebody in the middle of the street and it wouldn't affect my poll numbers. And by the way, too, I look back on that moment. Remember that moment, what was it, a few months ago, when he was on CNN and Jake Tapper asked him about the David Duke endorsement. And Trump is sitting there like, what, David Duke? What are you talking about? KKK? I don't know what you're talking about. I look back on that moment now. And of course, obviously at the time, I thought it was reprehensible that, this guy has to be dragged kicking and screaming into denouncing David Duke and the KKK, and he's acting like he has no clue. But I look back at that moment now, and I think two things. Number one, obviously, it was right before Super Tuesday when you got a whole bunch of Southern primaries on the same day. So his resistance, his reluctance to denounce David Duke and the KKK in that moment, that was a wink and a nod to the good old boys down south with the Confederate flags and the bumper stickers on their pickup trucks that say the South will rise again and all the other creepy stuff. That was a wink and a nod to them saying, yeah, I'm with you guys. And it worked. They came out in droves and voted for him, and it worked. But if my theory is right, here's also the brilliance of what he did in that moment. I mean, it's a sick brilliance. It's an evil brilliance, but it is brilliant if my theory is correct. Yes, number one, it made sure that he got a big turnout in those southern states on Super Tuesday. But number two, it also was a gift to Hillary Clinton for the future, because that moment of him acting like, oh, KKK, David Duke, what are you talking about? That's going to show up in a campaign ad that is used against him. How could he not know that? Maybe he did know that, and that's part of the plan. All these little things that he knows are going to get used against him later, but that's the idea. Because the idea is not for him to win. The idea is not for him to be president. Because either he made a secret deal or, like I said, he just thought it'd be fun to run as a lark. And now he's like, crap, I might actually win this. I don't want to be president. I'm a 70-year-old billionaire. I want to hang out and have a good time and, be a celebrity and whatnot, just like I always was. And now I might actually win. I got to do something about this. I really believe I'm right. I'm not saying any of this to be funny, just to be clear. I really believe I'm right. And I think all you Trump supporters, you have been duped. We'll be right back.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Hailing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Hailing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Welcome back, everybody. Matt Connarton Unleashed. We're only halfway done. I have one of the things that's been really fun about this whole Trump thing is just watching the sheer panic among Republicans, who I'm sure are just generally, the ones who don't like the racism and all that, or at least would prefer it be a bit more subtle. Just watching them panic is great fun. I take much joy in it. Let's see. I have examples for you to share. Just some things. Let's see. Michael Reagan, who is, of course, one of the sons of Ronald Reagan. There's Ron Reagan, who is the liberal son of Ronald Reagan. And then there's Michael Reagan, the conservative talk show host. But I think that the two sons, and they're half brothers, and they're from different mothers. But I forget who. Jane Wyman. That's who Reagan was married to before Nancy Reagan. So Michael Reagan is the son of Ronald Reagan and Jane Wyman. And then Ron Reagan Jr., which is actually his name, is the son of Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan, if I remember correctly. So Michael Reagan said, the conservative, who lives in California, he was talking about the California primary, he said today, "I'm not voting for Trump, and neither would my dad." And he said that Michael Reagan said that Trump is the first GOP presidential candidate his father wouldn't support. This is from Reuters. Michael Reagan, son of former President Ronald Reagan, speaks during a tribute to the 40th president during the 2004 Republican. That's from a picture that was in the article. Sorry, let me skip down here. Michael Reagan tweeted Monday that he won't vote for Donald Trump and doesn't think his late father would have supported the presumptive GOP nominee. Reagan said he wouldn't vote for Trump in the California primary on Tuesday. He followed that tweet with another that said that if his father were alive today, this would likely be the first time he wouldn't back his party's presidential candidate. And then there's some tweets, but that tells the story there. Let's see. Mitch McConnell. This is from HuffPost. McConnell tells Trump to stop attacking minorities. That's remarkable, isn't it? In the year 2016, you've got a high-ranking Republican needing to tell the I'm sure he asked very politely the Republican nominee to please stop attacking minorities. Says here, for Senator Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump's insults aimed at minorities and others the intemperate business tycoon considers enemies amount to a message problem. McConnell recently said that he voted against arch-conservative Barry Goldwater in the 1964 presidential election because Goldwater opposed the Civil Rights Act. Skipping down, he said, "I was worried that we would," this is a quote, "I was worried that we would do to the Latino vote what was done to the African-American vote by defining our party in such a way that we could not reach out to what has become the nation's largest minority group. So I'm worried about that. I said that last week, and I say it again today." Let's see. Paul Ryan said that, he actually used the word racist. He said, quote, "Claiming a person can't do their job because of their race is sort of like the textbook definition of a racist comment. I think that should be absolutely disavowed. It's absolutely unacceptable." This is after Paul Ryan just finally, what was it, last week, finally sort of tepidly endorsed Donald Trump. So remarkable stuff, and Trump, of course, in terms of talking about how someone wouldn't be able to do their job because of their ethnicity, Paul Ryan said that was kind of the definition of racism. Let's see. There's an article from Mediaite. Jen sent me this earlier because I didn't realize that Trump has issued a statement on the matter. And does he apologize for what he said? Well, that's the thing. The Donald does not apologize. But he did issue a statement. It's sort of one of these I'm sorry if you misunderstood what I was saying kind of things, the non-apology apology. This is what Mediaite says. Donald Trump issued a statement this afternoon in response to the giant media firestorm over his racially charged attacks on the Hispanic judge in the Trump University case. Trump says, quote, "It is unfortunate that my comments have been misconstrued as a categorical attack against people of Mexican heritage. I am friends with and employ thousands of people of Mexican and Hispanic descent," unquote. He insists that he doesn't believe that someone's heritage, quote, "makes them incapable of being impartial," unquote, but he feels, quote, "justified in questioning," unquote, whether he's getting a fair trial, given multiple rulings not in his favor. Yeah, it couldn't possibly be that Trump University is a giant scam or anything. It must be because the guy's Mexican-American. The rest of the statement is a lengthy defense of Trump University in response to charges that it was a total scam that bilked people out of a lot of money. He claims that 98% of people who gave Trump U high marks, though, as factcheck.org points out, one of the class action lawsuits alleges that the surveys were filled out under pressure or with the expectation that participants would receive additional benefits in the future. Yeah, and then there's Trump's statement, which I'm not going to bother to read because really all it is it opens with his, "I'm sorry you took me the wrong way," type of non-apology apology. "I'm sorry if you were offended." And then it just goes on to talk about Trump University and how great Trump University really is. And what a bogus lawsuit, because Trump University is really, and by the way, what's funny too is he actually had to stop calling it Trump University because you can't legally call a university if it's not a real university. How anyone, you've got to be pretty desperate or not particularly savvy to even hear the words Trump University and think, that sounds worthwhile. I'm going to max out my credit cards on tuition for that. Oh, it says in this literature that Donald Trump is going to personally teach me things. Well, of course he will. I'm going to be rich. Let's see. There's some other articles. Sometimes just the titles are funny and they end up sounding like they came from The Onion, even though it's real life. HuffPost has an article uptitled GOP senators finally starting to realize their party nominated a total racist. Says here, Senator Mark King, Republican of Illinois, became the first Republican member of Congress to rescind an endorsement of Donald Trump, saying on Tuesday that he could no longer support his party's presumptive nominee for president after Trump's racist attacks against a federal judge. Good for him. He said, quote, "I cannot and will not support my party's nominee for president," unquote. Kirk's statement was the most powerful denunciation of Trump to come from Republicans on Capitol Hill, but it was hardly the only one, suggesting that Trump's racist attacks are finally starting to worry GOP lawmakers. Senator Jeff Flake, Republican of Arizona, one of the few Republican senators who have not backed Trump, went a step further, arguing that Trump's comments could motivate Republicans to challenge him at the party's convention in July. Now, let me stop there for a moment because there's some more interesting quotes in this article. But again, see, this all goes to my theory. There's an opportunity, if Donald Trump could just act like, where's the deal-making Donald Trump, right? He's always talking about, he's going to make deals. He's going to make all these great deals. Well, he could make a deal with these members of Congress who are so upset with him by acting more like the Donald Trump that we all used to like and being a uniter and getting the Republican Party to coalesce around him. It would be so easy. But again, he's doing the extreme opposite. He is antagonizing them. It's one thing to attack other Republicans if those Republicans, of course, happen to be your opponents during the primary season, right? That's when Reagan's 11th commandment, thou shalt not speak ill of another Republican, that goes out the window during the primary because you've got to beat your opponents to get to the nomination. But once he became the presumptive nominee, you would think he would stop attacking Republicans and stop doing things to antagonize them by making these comments that they then have to refute because they're worried about their own reelections. But he's not doing that. He's doing the opposite. He is antagonizing them. He could so easily unite everybody behind him. It would not be difficult. All he has to do is stop with the over-the-top, obvious racist comments. But he doesn't do it. He is antagonizing them fiercely, even more so than during the primary season. Why is he doing that? Why? Is it that he's mentally ill? Does he have some sort of narcissistic personality disorder and just can't help himself? Very possible. Or is he intentionally trying to tank this election? So his, one time, he was pretty chummy with the Clintons at one time. I'm telling you, if you are a Donald, I know you don't want to hear it. You Trump supporters don't want to hear it. But I'm telling you, you're being taken for a ride. You can't see it, but you have been duped. You have absolutely been duped, and you have no idea, and you probably think I'm crazy, and you're probably sitting there thinking, oh, Donald Trump wouldn't lie to us. Why you would think that, I don't know. But for some reason, he's more credible than everyone else because he's not a real politician, I guess. I'm telling you, you're just, I don't want to keep rubbing. You know what? There'll be plenty of time to rub your noses in it after the election. We'll be right back.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Do you want to be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System Show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on OMTimes Radio. I'll meet you there.
Matt Connarton here. Join Jen Coffey and I twice a week for Matt Connarton Unleashed, a political talk show that's a little different than what you're used to. No liberal or conservative agenda here, just an honest dialogue about truth and how things really work in the world of politics. Matt Connarton Unleashed, every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Welcome back, everybody. Matt Connarton Unleashed as we cruise into our final segment tonight. Don't forget, you can now hear the show live 5 nights a week, Monday through Friday at 11 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation 2, one of our live channels on the IPM Nation live station. And, of course, Tuesdays and Thursday nights, we also have the honor and privilege of being carried on OTR FM, the premium channel on the OMTimes Radio Network. Be sure to keep an eye out tomorrow for the we'll have up on YouTube the television edition of this week's Matt Connarton Unleashed, which is now Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation. And I was also on, as I am most weeks, Ward 13 with John Hopwood. John and I chatted with Arnie Arneson, and she's the host of the show The Attitude with Arnie Arneson. And that was a really interesting conversation. And we're looking forward to adding her show to IPM Nation as well, by the way. And I didn't realize, too, she broadcasts from a station in Concord, New Hampshire, which is close to where I am, but I didn't realize just how widely syndicated her show really is. But so it's kind of weird how, because she's a liberal, and liberal talk radio really just has never gotten the same kind of has never had the same dominance on terrestrial radio that conservative talk radio does. I could probably name off the top of my head 10 really popular conservative talk radio shows, and then if you were to ask me, well, name a straight liberal talk radio show, I can think of, well, there's Arnie Arneson, and there are others. David Packman, his show is really good. And I know there's more, and I can't think of them. but for whatever reason, liberal talk radio has never really taken off. There has been attempts. There was Air America, which some of you might remember, and that was that Al Gore's thing? No, that was Current TV. But Air America used to a couple of the shows would simulcast on Current TV. Current TV ended up becoming Al Jazeera America when Al Gore sold it, and I think Al Jazeera America is now gone because they couldn't really get any traction on cable. So let's see. I want to finish off with, we have a few minutes. I don't know if we'll be finishing off with this, but I did find another fun article on HuffPost. Not everyone is running away from the Donald. It says here, Republicans are twisting themselves into pretzels to defend Donald Trump. Let's see. Turns out the best entertainment in Washington this week is in the U.S. Senate, where Republicans are desperately trying to distance themselves from Donald Trump's racist attacks on a federal judge, while somehow still insisting he's their guy for president. Trump has sent GOP lawmakers scrambling, particularly those in tight re-election races, after saying last week that the U.S. District Judge overseeing Trump University lawsuits, the Indiana-born Gonzalo Curiel, can't be impartial because he is a Mexican, and Trump has advocated a wall along the border. On top of that, Trump said Sunday that Muslim American judges might be biased against him too because of his anti-Muslim remarks. So how do you square those kinds of comments and the suggestion that a federal judge can't be fair because of his or her ethnic heritage or religion with your support for your party's presidential nominee? You can certainly try. Those were his comments, not my comments, said Senator Pat Toomey, Republican of Pennsylvania, one of the most vulnerable senators in the election cycle. Toomey emphasized that he hasn't technically endorsed Trump and referred to an op-ed he wrote last month in which he says he's inclined to support the nominee of my party, but wouldn't necessarily always agree with him. HuffPost asked if that means he's now backing Trump since Trump is the GOP nominee. Presumptive nominee, Toomey clarified before walking away. Senator John Thune, Republican of South Dakota, the number 3 GOP leader in the Senate, said he, like others, found Trump's comments wildly inappropriate. But he still supports Trump for president because he thinks the reality TV star will change his ways. At least Thune is hoping so. He said, quote, I hope we don't spend the entire year having our Senate candidates having to separate themselves from our nominee. What I'm hoping for is that he's going to take corrective action when it comes to his rhetoric, unquote. But what if he doesn't? Thune then said with an awkward chuckle, I guess time will tell. As he slipped into a Senate elevator, another reporter jumped in and asked if he had time for a non-Trump question. Yes, Thune replied as the doors closed. Senator Orrin Hatch, Republican of Utah, said Trump's comments were certainly inappropriate, but he's convinced that Trump will mature as the campaign goes on. Hatch said, quote, he's the type of person who will make comments that sometimes you differ with, and then he gets to reality on things. He'll change his point of view and be, more responsible, unquote. By the way, these Republicans who say this kind of thing, what do they base that on other than wishful thinking? He has shown nothing in his character to suggest that he will improve his behavior. He has only shown the opposite. I'm telling you, I will not be shocked if, at some point between now and Election Day, he manages to drop the N-word at least once at the rate he's going. Okay, maybe that won't actually happen, but actually I would be kind of shocked by that. That's pretty extreme. But, well, at least, he won't say the really bad N-word. He might say, like, Negro or something. Let's see. The Utah Senator, Orrin Hatch, who has long served on the Judiciary Committee, dismissed the idea that Trump's comments erode the integrity of the judicial branch of government. Based on his personal experience with Trump, he said he's never gotten the sense that he's racist either. Hatch said, quote, "I don't think he has a prejudicial bone in his body," unquote. HuffPost noted that Trump has said, among other things, that Mexican immigrants are rapists and criminals. Hatch said, quote, "Well, that shouldn't have been said. There's nothing wrong with speaking emotionally and speaking how you feel, but it's important for him to, I think, tone it down a wee bit," unquote. By the way, I personally am not convinced that Trump is racist. A part of me wants to think that he's really not, and that this is just all part of the act. I don't know of him. I don't know of any history of him saying anything racist or prejudicial before he decided to run for president. He doesn't seem like the type to me, to be honest with you. He doesn't seem like the type who would be racist. I don't know. I suspect it's just part of the act. Usually a guy like Trump, the only color they really care about is green, Let's see. None of the 10 GOP senators interviewed by HuffPost seemed worried about the prospect of a President Trump filling the empty seat on the Supreme Court, despite his comments about judges. Republicans are essentially holding that seat open for Trump to fill, should he win in November, by denying a vote to President Barack Obama's nominee, Merrick Garland. Yeah, that's still dragging on. They won't have a hearing or any. It's such a. By the way, this is a little bit of a tangent, but such a stupid risk they're taking. Most likely, Hillary Clinton is going to be the next president. Barack Obama presented them with a nominee for the Supreme Court who, up until Barack Obama presented him as a nominee for the Supreme Court, Republicans liked very much, and he was confirmed unanimously by both Republicans and Democrats to the court that he sits on now. They're only against him because of Obama, and they're playing a very, very dangerous game. They think they're going to get Trump in there and then nominate their own, like, uber conservative justice. They should take what they've been offered. Merrick Garland is as conservative a judge as you're going to get from Obama. They should have the hearings and they should confirm him. Otherwise, you're looking at a President Hillary Clinton giving you a nominee you're going to be far less happy with. Stupid risk. Senator James Inhofe, Republican of Oklahoma, conceded that Trump blew it with his comments about Curiel and said he thought Trump, quote, was a lot smarter than that, unquote. Still, he's fine with Trump potentially filling the Supreme Court vacancy. If he is the president, he's going to have a lot of really good, knowledgeable advisors. He will be listening to advisors on that, Inhofe said. Yeah, whenever I hear something like that, I'm reminded of something my dad always says. Whenever someone wins the presidency who my dad isn't crazy about, he always says, well, I hope at least he'll surround himself with good people. I think he said that when George W. Bush became president. And then there's others. There's so, the Republican Party is really split. There's a lot of anti-Trump and a lot of pro-Trump. But it's fun. This really is the most fun election ever. I just never imagined. 2000, it's funny. I had a conversation with John Hopwood after my show. I was commenting to him that, who could have predicted 2012 just seems so boring and predictable compared to this election cycle. 2012, it was Obama versus Romney. If you combine them, you could make them Obama, or maybe Romaba or something. But it was fairly predictable. It was, I always find presidential campaigns exciting, but I mean, in terms of presidential campaigns, it was fairly predictable and nothing too exciting, and kind of figured all along Obama would win because Romney just didn't seem quite up to it in terms of, not the best candidate. Certainly a competent guy, and I don't think a President Romney even would have been bad for the country. But, governor, 47%. But he wasn't terribly exciting, and the campaign wasn't terribly exciting, and it was fairly predictable. Who would have possibly imagined what we would have the next election cycle in 2016? Who could have predicted any of this? This is... Who could have predicted Trump? Who could have predicted Bernie Sanders? Who could have predicted a libertarian ticket of Gary Johnson and Bill Weld polling at 10%? That's incredible. This is it's amazing stuff. We are out of time, my friends. Come on back tomorrow night, exclusively on IPM Nation 2 for our Wednesday night show. We'll talk at you all then. Good night, everybody.